Hi, in today's sessions, we are going to see the loops in Java. So what are loops? Loops basically execute a block of codes repeatedly until a condition remains true. I wanted to print certain number of statements for n number of times. So I cannot write the same statement again and again. Say, for example, I want to print my name for 10 times. So system.out.println my name like that. If I keep on writing 10 times, it doesn't make a sense. So what I want to do, I want to take this statement and I want to take under the control. So for that, I wanted to use these loops. So loops, basically in Java, there are three types: for loop, while loop, and do while. Again, all these loops are supported in C language, C++, as well as in Java. Okay, so now as I told, loops are basically it's called as iterative statements. Or iterate the statements until some condition holds good true. Once the condition becomes false, stop executing the loops. Okay, stop executing the body of the loops. So that's the reason why we go for using a loops in any programming languages. Okay, how does a for loop works? Use a for loop when a number of iteration is known in advance. If I know that, okay, I'm going to repeat the statement for 10 times, 12 times, 20 times, 100 times, then I can go for using a simple for loop. The enhanced for loop, we are going to use this topic called as arrays and collections. There we are going to use it. There is nothing called as for each loop. Labeled for loop used with nested loops and break and continue. Okay, so we can see in the below, this is syntax of using a for loop. For loop, the first part is initialization, the initial value for the variable. That variable holds good for the conditions. If the condition is true, then the code to execute, the body will be executed. Then the value will be incremented or decremented based on your requirements. Here are some examples to print a pyramid patterns in the ascending output and the descending output. You can see in the output here, before understanding this loop, let us understand here. It's printing like a right angle triangle shape here. So in the first line, it is going to print the first star. In the second line, 2 star, 3 star, 4 star, 5 star. Okay, right? And this is a reverse 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So how to print this? For this, I'm using a nested for loop over here. I'm using a nested for loop over here. A for loop within loop is called as nested for loops. We can have a nested while loop, nested do while loop, anything over there. So now first the outermost conditions. One less than, because the number of stars I want to print is 5 here. Okay, right? So it is true, 1 less than 5, it is true. It comes to innermost loop, j equal to 1, j less than equal to I. 1 less than equal to 1, it is true. You're going to print the star and there's a space over here. I'm using a print over here, not a printer. So before going to the next, before going to the, before the value of high gets incremented, the is going to print a slash in here. So it's going to come here, the cursor is going to come in next line. Then the I goes to 2. Again, j initialized to 1. 1 less than equal to, yes, it is true. It's going to print star for one time, then a space, then j gets incremented, 2 less than equal to 2, condition is true. Then it's going to print 2 stars. Like this, 3 stars, 4 stars, 5 stars, continuously repeat over here. This is just the reverse of this. Here I'm using the increment operator. Here I'm using a decrement. But see, the conditions are got changed. The first row I want to get a 5 star. So I made initial value as 5. Then I want to decrement it. So when I decrement the value of 5, so it should not go more than, it should not go behind the 1 over there. So I should say I is equal to 1, I minus minus. Finally, the value of I becomes, let us say, minus 1. So minus 1 is not more than 1. So the loop gets terminated over there. Similarly, here the value of 5 goes to 6. 6 is less than or equal to 5, condition becomes false. Then it is not going to print the star mark for the 6th time. If you want to get one more row with 6 stars, increase this to condition to 6. If you want to print the first row again, ensure the value with 6 over here. Okay. So the for each loop, as I told, this is an array. So in the upcoming session, we are going to use an arrays also. If you want to print all the contents of this array index start from 0 position. I can use the enhanced for loop because this array is of type integer. So I use this as an index. Okay, I in array. So print the value I in a, this I will point to starting location, prints the first value, then I goes next to memory locations. Then until there are no more address to be pointed, no more values to be printed, this loop will be keep on continuing over there. Infinite loops we can use for a for loop or a while loop. But if you put two semicolons here, for example, if you put two semicolons just without any initialization and conditions, that becomes an infinite loops. Okay. So the while loop, if you don't know the condition initially, then we are supposed to use the while loop over there. The while loop repeats as long as conditions is true. The condition is checked before each iteration, so the body may never execute. While the conditions, okay, are same, whatever we did in the for loop, the same holds good here. Value of I is equals to 1, less than or equal to 10, print the value of 5. Then first time 1 less than 10, print the value, then 2 increment the value, 2 less than 10, 3 less than 10, it keeps on going. It's going to print the value from 1 to 10 only. This is how while of true to make an infinite loops. The do while loop, its conditions, check the conditions after exit the body. So here the difference between while loop and do while is that do while will execute at least for one time if the condition is false, because the condition is checking it the later. Whereas in the while loop or in the for loop, the condition will be checked first. Then if the condition is satisfied, then only the body will be, then the control will enter to the body of the program, body of the while loop or body of the loops. But here first it will enter to the body of the loop, then it is going to check the conditions. This is how the do while loop is going to work for us. So what do you do? What happens when break is omitted in a switch case statement? How do you exit the loop early, unlabeled versus labeled break and continue? What loop types does Java supports? What is an enhanced for loop? Conditions and exceptions, when to use switch versus if? How does try catch finally flow when might finally not run? This is exception handling. This we are going to see the later part. Predict the output of a given code snippets. Okay, this is what we have to practice on. Okay, so this is how the loops are going to work in Java. So we are going to see practically in the next sessions or in the real-time examples how do we use loops. Thank you very much.